Elder Thorn's crystal hands shook as he watched the dark ships fill the sky above his peaceful world. The Calrian leader had lived for 300 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His people were healers, not fighters. They made medicine that could cure diseases across the galaxy. They had no weapons, no armies, no way to defend themselves. The Vex ships looked like giant metal spiders hanging in the purple sky of Calria. Their weapons glowed with deadly red light. Thorn knew what was coming. The Vex Dominion wanted their world, their healing technology, and they did not care about the lives of innocent people. "Elder Thorn!" called his assistant, Nira. Her crystal skin was pale with fear. "The first wave of attacks has begun. They are hitting our healing centers and schools. Thousands are already dead." Thorn closed his eyes. His people had always believed that peace would protect them. They thought their gifts to the galaxy would keep them safe. They were wrong. "Send the distress call," he said quietly. "Send it to everyone. Maybe someone will help us." Far away in human space, Captain Rivera sat in her monitoring station. She was supposed to watch for messages and report them to her bosses. Most days, nothing important happened. Today was different. The emergency channel lit up with a desperate message. Rivera put on her headphones and listened. The voice was strange, musical like wind chimes, but the fear in it was clear. "This is Elder Thorn of the Calrian people. Our world is under attack. The Vex Dominion is killing our children, destroying our cities. We have no weapons. We cannot fight. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. We are dying." Rivera felt her stomach twist. She had heard about the Calrians. They were good people who helped everyone. They never hurt anyone. She looked at her computer screen and saw the official response from the Galactic Council. They would consider the request. They would form a committee. They would discuss it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. By then, everyone on Calria would be dead. Rivera made a choice that would change everything. She opened a direct channel to Earth Military Command and sent them the message. Along with it, she added her own words. "They are killing innocents." "Permission to engage?" Commander Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his forces destroy another Calrian city. The crystalline buildings shattered like glass under his weapons. It was almost too easy. Voss was old for a Vex warrior. His gray skin was covered in scars from many battles. He had destroyed 12 worlds for the Dominion. This one would be lucky number 13. "Sir," called his communications officer, "the Calrians are sending distress calls." Voss laughed. It was a cold sound like breaking metal. "Let them call. The Galactic Council takes weeks to do anything. By then, this world will be ours." He looked at the reports from his ground forces. The Calrians were not even trying to fight. They just ran and hid. Some tried to shield their children with their own bodies. It was pathetic. "How long until we control the planet?" Voss asked. 2 days, sir. Maybe less. They have no defenses. At all. Good. Take the healing technology. Kill the rest. The Dominion has no use for weak creatures. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane sat in the war room deep under the planet's surface. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands. He had fought in more battles than he could count. When Rivera's message reached him, he did not hesitate. "Get me the president," he said to his aide. The conversation was short. Kane explained the situation. The president asked one question. "How fast can we get there?" "If we leave now, 2 days," Kane replied. "Then leave now. Use everything we have." Kane smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Everything, sir. Everything. These Vex bastards picked the wrong species to murder. Across human space, military bases came alive. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and dark nebulas began to move. These were not exploration vessels or trade ships. These were warships built for one purpose, to destroy anything that threatened humanity or its friends. The fleet that assembled was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. At its center was the dreadnought Titan's Fury, a ship so large it had its own gravity. Around it flew destroyers with names like Death's Edge and Vengeance Rising. Smaller ships darted between them like angry wasps. Dr. Hayes watched the fleet gathering from the observation deck of Earth's main station. She was a military strategist, someone who planned battles. Even she was shocked by what she saw. "This is insane," she whispered to General Brooks, who stood beside her. "We're sending enough firepower to conquer half the galaxy just to save one world." Brooks was a tall woman with cold blue eyes. She had been planning Earth's defenses for 20 years. "The Calrians asked for help," she said simply. "We help our friends." "But the cost," Hayes said. "The weapons we're deploying are banned by galactic law. The ion cannons alone could crack a planet. If the Council sees this, they'll declare us a threat to galactic peace." Brooks turned to look at her. "Doctor, let me explain something. Humans don't care about galactic law when children are dying. We don't care about politics when innocent people are being murdered. The Vex want to see what Deathworlders do when we're angry? They're about to find out." Pilot Torres sat in the cockpit of her fighter ship, checking her weapons one last time. She was young, maybe 25, with quick hands and faster reflexes. Her squadron was called the Hell Riders, and they lived up to their name. All pilots. "This is Admiral Kane," came the voice over their radios. "You all know why we're here. The Vex think they can murder innocent people without consequences. They think the galaxy is too civilized to stop them. They're wrong. We're going to show them what happens when you hurt people under human protection." Torres grinned and started her engines. Around her, 1,000 other fighters did the same. The sound was like thunder. On Calria, Elder Thorn watched his people die. Vex soldiers walked through the streets, shooting anyone they saw. Crystal bodies lay broken in the roads. Children cried for parents who would never answer. "Any response to our calls for help?" he asked Nira. She shook her head, tears flowing down her crystal cheeks. "The Galactic Council says they are considering our request. No one else has answered." Thorn felt his hope die. They were alone. His people would become just another conquest for the Vex Dominion. Then something impossible happened. Every communication device on the planet received the same message at the same time. It was in rough, harsh language that sounded like grinding metal, but the translation was clear. "Calrians, this is the human fleet. We received your call for help. We are coming. Hold on. Do not give up. We will be there in 6 hours. Hide. Survive." "Help is coming!" Commander Voss nearly dropped his drink when his communications officer brought him the message. "Humans?" he snarled. "What are they doing here?" "Sir, our long-range sensors are picking up ships coming out of hyperspace at the edge of the system." "How many ships?" The officer looked at his screen, then looked again. His face went pale. "Sir, I think our sensors are broken. It says there are over 3,000 human ships heading this way." Voss laughed, but it sounded forced. "Impossible. Humans don't have that many warships. It must be a sensor error." But deep in his warrior's heart, Voss felt something he had not felt in 50 years of conquest. He felt afraid. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Titan's Fury as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The massive view screen showed the Calrian system ahead of them. Smoke rose from the beautiful crystal cities on the planet below. The sight made his jaw clench with anger. "Admiral," called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Park, "I'm reading 47 Vex warships in orbit around Calria. They're positioned over the major cities." Kane nodded. "Standard Vex tactic. Use the cities as shields so we can't fire on them without killing civilians." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Vex flagship. Put it on screen." Commander Voss appeared on the view screen. His gray skin looked even more pale than usual. Behind him, Kane could see Vex officers running around in panic. "Human fleet," Voss said, trying to sound calm. "You are entering Vex territory. This world belongs to the Dominion now. Leave immediately or face the consequences. Kane stepped forward. He was wearing his full-dress uniform, dark blue with medals from a dozen battles. His voice was quiet, but every word carried the weight of Earth's fury. Commander Voss, I presume. I am Admiral Kane of the Human Defense Force. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw your forces from this system and release all Calrian prisoners. This is your only warning. Voss tried to laugh, but it came out as more of a cough. 1 hour? Human. You face the might of the Vex Dominion. We have conquered worlds when your species was still learning to make fire. Retreat now while you still can. Kane's expression did not change. Commander, let me explain something to you. You asked for help from a species that evolved on a world where everything tries to kill them. A world where the weather can melt, steel, where the animals hunt in packs, where the plants are poisonous. We survived all of that. What makes you think we're afraid of you? The connection ended. Kane turned to his crew. All ships, battle stations, prep the ion cannons and load the planet crackers. If they want to play with the big guns, we'll show them what real firepower looks like. Dr. Hayes watched from the command ship's observation deck as the human fleet spread out across space. She had studied military tactics her whole life, but she had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just preparing to fight. They were preparing to completely destroy the enemy. General Brooks, she said into her communicator, the weapons they're deploying, some of these are experimental. We don't even know if they work properly. Brooks's voice came back calm and steady. Doctor, when humans get angry enough, we'll try anything. Our engineers have been working on these weapons for years, waiting for the right time to test them. Looks like the Vex just volunteered to be test subjects. Engineer Patel worked frantically in the weapons bay of the destroyer, Death's Edge. Around him, his team checked systems that had never been used in real combat. The gravity bombs, the molecular disruptors, the quantum torpedoes that could punch holes in space itself. Sir, called one of his assistants, the quantum torpedoes are showing some instability in their containment fields. Patel wiped sweat from his forehead. How bad? If they malfunction, they could take out half our own fleet. Patel grinned. Then we better make sure they hit the enemy first. Keep working. On Calria, Elder Thorn and the surviving Calrians huddled in underground tunnels. The Vex had been bombing the surface for 2 days straight. Crystal buildings that had stood for thousands of years were now rubble. Elder, whispered Nera. The human fleet has arrived. They're demanding the Vex leave. Thorn felt a flicker of hope. How many ships did they send? The reports say over 3,000. Thorn's crystal eyes widened. 3,000 ships for his small world? It seemed impossible. Why would the humans risk so much for strangers? Above them, Vex soldiers prepared for battle. But something was wrong. The soldiers looked nervous. Some were checking their weapons, over and over. Others kept looking at the sky as if expecting death to fall from above. Captain Rivera sat in her monitoring station, listening to the communications between the two fleets. She was the one who had started all this by sending the Yah message to Earth. Now she watched as the most powerful human fleet ever assembled prepared for war. All human ships, came Admiral Kane's voice over the radio. Remember why we're here. Every minute we delay, more innocents die. We don't have time for a long battle. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't stop until every Vex ship is space. Dust. The response came from 3,000 ships at once. Understood, Admiral. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. Commander Voss tried to maintain his composure, but his hands shook as he read the reports from his scouts. The human fleet was not like anything in their databases. These ships were covered in armor that his weapons could barely scratch. Their engines burned hotter than small stars. Their weapons. His scouts could not even identify what some of them were. Sir, called his tactical officer, the humans are moving into attack formation. They're not following any known battle pattern. Voss looked at the screen showing the human fleet. Instead of the neat lines that civilized species used, the humans were spreading out like a pack of wild animals surrounding prey. "It's like they're hunting us," he whispered. "Sir, incoming message from the human flagship." Admiral Kane appeared on screen again. This time he was not alone. Behind him stood officers from a dozen different human worlds. Their faces showed no mercy, no hesitation. "Commander Voss," Kane said, "your hour is up. Since you chose to stay, let me tell you what happens next. My fleet carries enough firepower to turn your ships into atoms. We have weapons that can crack planets and bombs that can collapse stars. But we're not going to use those on you." Voss felt confused. "You're not?" Kane's smile was cold as space. "No, we're going to use something much worse. We're going to show you what humans do when they're really angry. We're going to fight you the way we fought everything else on our death world. With fury, with rage, and without mercy." The human fleet opened fire. The space around Calria lit up like a new sun as thousands of human weapons fired at once. But these were not the clean energy beams that most species used. These were crude, brutal weapons that tore through Vex shields like they were made of paper. Railguns fired chunks of metal at impossible speeds. Missile swarms blocked out the stars. Plasma cannons heated sections of space to temperatures that should not exist. "Sir," screamed the Vex tactical officer, "our shields are failing. Their weapons are... They're ignoring our defensive systems." Voss watched in horror as his proud fleet was torn apart in minutes. Human ships moved like angry beasts, chasing down any Vex vessel that tried to run. Their weapons never stopped firing. Their engines never slowed down. "How is this possible?" he gasped. "Their technology should not be this advanced." "Sir," called his communications officer, "I'm intercepting human battle chatter. They're saying this is just their standard fleet loadout. These aren't even their best weapons." Voss felt his blood turn cold. "If this was not their best..." "Sir, multiple human boarding pods are attaching to our hull." "Boarding pods? In the middle of a space battle?" Voss could not believe it. Only insane creatures would try to board an enemy ship while the battle was still raging. Alarms blared throughout his ship as human soldiers cut through the hull. Voss heard the sound of fighting coming from the lower decks. His soldiers were screaming. "Sir!" came a panicked voice over the radio. "The humans, they fight like demons. They use their own bodies as weapons. They don't care if they get hurt as long as they win." Voss realized with growing terror that he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought humans were just another civilized species. He was wrong. They were something else entirely. They were predators from a world of predators. "All ships," he broadcast to what was left of his fleet. "Retreat! Fall back to the moon! We'll make our stand there!" But as his remaining ships fled toward Calria's moon, Voss heard something that chilled his warrior heart. The humans were laughing. They were enjoying this. The battle was not over. It had barely begun. Captain Mitchell watched the Vex fleet retreat toward Calria's moon through the view screen of his ship. The dreadnought Titan's fury had taken only minor damage in the first battle. Around him, his crew worked to repair what little harm the Vex had managed to cause. "Sir," called Lieutenant Park from her station, "long-range scans show the Vex are regrouping on the moon's surface, but they're doing something strange." "Strange how?" Mitchell asked. "They're bringing up Calrian civilians from the planet. Thousands of them. It looks like they're attaching them to the outside of their ships." Mitchell felt his anger rise. Using innocent people as human shields was bad enough, but strapping them to warships like armor was something else entirely. "How many civilians?" "At least 10,000, sir. Men, women, children. They're using metal cables to attach them to their hull plating." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Vex were betting that humans would not fire on ships covered with innocent people. They thought human mercy would be their weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Get me Admiral Kane," Mitchell ordered. Kane's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Mitchell could see the Admiral's staff working frantically. "Captain, I assume you've seen what the Vex are doing." "Yes, sir." "Your orders?" Kane's expression was like carved stone. "We're going to save every single one of those civilians. Then we're going to make the Vex wish they had never heard of the human race." "Sir, how do we extract 10,000 people from enemy ships without getting them killed?" Kane smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "We're going to do something the galaxy has never seen before. We're going to show them what Deathworld engineering can accomplish when we're motivated." In the engineering section of the Titan's Fury, Engineer Patel stared at the plans his team had drawn up in the last 2 hours. What they were proposing was impossible by every law of physics he knew. It was also their only hope. "Sir," said his assistant, "the nano-rescue drones are ready for deployment, but the power requirements—" "Will drain half our ship's energy," Patel finished. "I know. Do it anyway." The nano-drones were smaller than dust particles, but each one carried enough technology to cut through metal, generate force fields, and teleport small objects. The plan was to send billions of them to simultaneously cut the cables holding the civilians and teleport them to safety. It had never been tested. It probably would not work. But humans had built their entire civilization on trying impossible things. Commander Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, now docked inside a massive fortress on Calria's moon. Around his ship, thousands of Calrian civilians hung in metal cages. Their crystal bodies caught the light, making them sparkle like horrible decorations. "Sir," called his tactical officer, "the human fleet is approaching. They've stopped just outside weapons range." Voss smiled for the first time since the battle began. "Finally, they understand. Broadcast this message to their fleet." The communication went out on all frequencies. "Admiral Kane, this is Commander Voss. As you can see, we have taken Calrian civilians as protection. Any attack on our forces will result in their deaths. Withdraw your fleet immediately or watch thousands of innocents die." The response came back within seconds. Kane's voice was calm, almost friendly. "Commander Voss, thank you for gathering all the civilians in one place. It makes our job much easier." Voss felt confused. "Your job?" "Rescuing them, of course. Did you really think we would just leave innocent people in your hands?" Before Voss could respond, space around the moon began to shimmer. Clouds of something too small to see surrounded every Vex ship. The nano-drones had arrived. Rescue specialist Quinn sat in her transport ship, watching her team prepare for the most dangerous mission of their lives. She was a former Special Forces soldier who had volunteered for the new Civilian Rescue Corps. Her job was to save people from impossible situations. Today's situation was more impossible than most. "Listen up," she told her team over the radio. "In exactly 30 seconds, those nano-drones are going to cut every civilian free from the Vex ships and start teleporting them to our location. Our job is to catch them, treat their injuries, and get them to safety." "Ma'am," called one of her team members, "what if the teleportation doesn't work properly?" Quinn checked her equipment one more time. "Then we go in and get them the hard way. No one gets left behind. That's the human way." On the Vex flagship, alarms began screaming as the metal cables holding the civilians started dissolving. Voss watched in horror as thousands of Calrians simply vanished in flashes of blue light. "What's happening?" he screamed at his officers. "Sir, some kind of teleportation technology. The humans are extracting the civilians directly through our shields." "That's impossible. Teleportation through shields can't be done." His tactical officer looked up from his instruments with fear in his eyes. "Sir, the humans are doing it anyway." In the space around the moon, brilliant flashes of light marked each successful rescue. One by one, every Calrian civilian disappeared from the Vex ships and reappeared safely aboard human rescue vessels. The process took exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Admiral Kane watched the last civilian materialize in the rescue bay of his ship. The Calrian was injured, but alive. Around the fleet, medical teams were already treating thousands of rescued people. "All civilians recovered, sir," reported his communications officer. "Zero casualties from the extraction." Kane nodded. "Excellent. Now broadcast this message to the Vex fleet." His face appeared on every Vex ship's communication screen. "Commander, Voss, as you can see, we've rescued all the civilians. Thank you for keeping them in one convenient location. Now, about your continued existence." Voss appeared on Kane's screen, his face twisted with rage and fear. "This is impossible. No species has technology that advanced," Kane shrugged. "Commander, you keep using that word. Impossible. Let me explain something to you about humans. We specialize in doing impossible things. We flew before we understood aerodynamics. We split atoms before we understood radiation. We went to space before we understood orbital mechanics. When we want something badly enough, we figure out how to do it. But the energy requirements alone are massive, yes. We're currently running our entire fleet on emergency power, but it was worth it to save innocent lives." Kane's expression hardened. "Now, let's talk about what happens to you." Voss tried to look defiant, but his hands were shaking. "The Dominion will send more fleets. You cannot fight our entire empire." Kane smiled. "Commander, you still don't understand. We're not just fighting you. We're making an example of you. Every species in the galaxy is watching this battle. They're seeing what happens when someone hurts innocents under human protection." Around the moon, the human fleet moved into attack formation. But this time, there were no civilians to worry about. This time, the humans could use their full strength. "All ships," Kane broadcast to his fleet. "The civilians are safe. You are now authorized to use unrestricted force. Show the galaxy why they call us Deathworlders." The space around Calria's moon erupted in violence, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships fired weapons that should not exist. Gravity bombs that created miniature black holes. Plasma cannons that heated matter to the temperature of stellar cores. Quantum torpedoes that punched holes in space itself. But the worst part for the Vex was not the weapons. It was the way the humans fought. They attacked like pack hunters, coordinating without words. They took risks that no sane species would take. When their ships were damaged, they kept fighting. When their weapons ran out, they rammed enemy vessels. "Commander." Voss watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship vanished in balls of flame and twisted metal. His proud warriors, veterans of 100 conquests, screamed in terror as human boarders cut through their defenses. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Other human fleets are attacking Vex. Positions everywhere. They're hitting all our major bases simultaneously." Voss stared at the man in shock. "All of them? How many fleets do the humans have?" "We don't know, sir. They're coming out of everywhere. Hidden bases, secret shipyards, places we never knew existed." For the first time in his life, Commander Voss realized he was not facing just another civilized species. He was facing something that had evolved to be the perfect predator. Something that had learned to hunt and kill everything on a world where mercy meant death. He was facing Deathworlders, and they were very, very angry. "Sir," whispered his tactical officer. "What are your orders?" Voss looked at the tactical display, showing the approaching human ships. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The humans had planned this perfectly. "Prepare for our final stand," he said quietly, "and pray to whatever gods might listen that they kill us quickly." The fortress on Calria's moon shook as human weapons pounded its shields. Commander Voss stood in his command center watching his defenses slowly fail. Around him, Vex officers worked frantically at their stations, but he could see the fear in their eyes. "Sir," called his chief engineer, "the humans have broken through the outer defensive grid. They're beginning orbital bombardment of the fortress itself." Voss nodded grimly. "How long until the shields fail?" "At this rate? Maybe 2 hours." 2 hours until the human ground forces landed. 2 hours until his proud Vex warriors faced Deathworld soldiers in close combat. Voss had seen the reports from other battles. Humans fought like nothing else in the galaxy. They used their own bodies as weapons when their guns ran empty. They kept fighting even when mortally wounded. They seemed to feel no fear. Sir, his tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. There's something else. Our deep scans of the moon's core show the humans may have discovered the weapon. Voss felt his blood turn cold. The weapon. The Dominion's most secret project, hidden in the heart of this moon for 50 years. A planet killer that could crack a world in half. If the humans found it, are you certain? No, sir, but their scanning patterns suggest they know something is down there. Voss made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his short life. Activate the weapon. Begin charging sequence. Sir, but if we fire it at Calria, we'll destroy the entire planet. Billions of people will die. Then the humans will learn. The price of fighting the Vex Dominion? Voss snarled. If we cannot have this world, then no one can. Sergeant Williams crouched behind a broken wall as Vex plasma bolts screamed over his head. Around him, his squad of human Marines prepared for the final assault on the fortress. They had been fighting for 6 hours, pushing through layer after layer of Vex defenses. Williams was a big man, built like a tank, with scars covering his arms from battles on 3 different worlds. His squad called him Sarge, and they would follow him into hell itself. Today they might have to. Sarge, called Corporal Davis over the radio. Intelligence says there's some kind of massive weapon in the fortress core. The Vex are trying to activate it. Williams spat into the dust. What kind of weapon? The kind that can destroy planets, Sarge. Williams felt his anger rise. First, the Vex murdered innocent Calrians. Then they used civilians as shields. Now they wanted to destroy an entire world rather than admit defeat. Some people just needed killing. How long until it fires? Maybe an hour if we're lucky. Williams looked at his squad. 12 of the finest soldiers humanity had ever produced. They had signed up to protect innocent people from monsters like the Vex. Today they would finish the job. Listen up, he told them. We've got 1 hour to get into that fortress and stop a planet killer. The Vex want to murder billions of people rather than lose face. Anyone have a problem with stopping them? The squad grinned. These were warriors from Earth where everything was trying to kill you. They had learned to fight by surviving in a world of predators. A few Vex soldiers did not scare them. Let's go kill some bad guys, Sarge, said Private Jackson, checking her rifle. In space above the moon, Admiral Kane watched the ground assault through his ship's sensors. His Marines were advancing steadily, but time was running out. The planet killer weapon was charging faster than expected. Sir, called his tactical officer, the weapon will be ready to fire in 43 minutes. At this rate, our ground forces won't reach it in time. Kane studied the tactical display. The fortress was too well defended. Even his best soldiers could not fight through the remaining defenses fast enough. Unless, prep the Defiant for ramming speed, he ordered. His bridge crew turned to stare at him. The Defiant was a heavy cruiser with a crew of 800. What he was suggesting, sir, his first officer said carefully, that would mean sacrificing the entire ship and crew. Kane nodded. I know. Get me Captain Morrison. Captain Morrison appeared on the screen. She was a tough woman with gray hair and steady hands. Behind her, Kane could see her bridge crew working calmly at their stations. Admiral, she said simply, Sarah, I need you to ram the fortress. Your ship is the only one heavy enough to break through their core defenses. It's the only way our ground. Teams can reach the weapon in time. Morrison did not hesitate. Understood, sir. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Captain. Tell your crew they're saving a world. Morrison smiled. They already know, sir. Morrison out. Kane watched as the Defiant broke formation and began accelerating toward the moon. On his tactical display, he could see Morrison's crew working frantically to overload their engines. They would hit the fortress like a meteor, traveling at a significant fraction of the speed of light. 800 people were about to die to save billions. It was the kind of sacrifice that only humans seemed willing to make. Deep in the fortress, Sergeant Williams and his squad fought their way through corridor after corridor of Vex defenders. The aliens were tough fighters, but they had never faced anything like human Marines in close combat. Williams kicked down a blast door and charged into a room full of Vex soldiers. His rifle fired in short, controlled bursts as he moved. Behind him, his squad flowed into the room like water, each Marine covering the others. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, 12 Vex lay dead, and the humans had not taken a single casualty. "Sarge," called Davis from the door, "we're close to the core, but the passage ahead is rigged with enough explosives to bring down half the fortress." Williams looked at the narrow tunnel leading to the weapon chamber. It was a death trap. Anyone who went down there would not come back. "How many explosives?" he asked. "Enough to vaporize anyone within 100 meters when they go off." Williams smiled grimly. "Good thing we brought our own explosives then." He turned to his squad. "Davis, Jackson, Martinez, you three are with me. Everyone else fall back to safe distance." "Sarge," protested Corporal Adams, "you can't go down there, it's suicide." "Maybe," Williams said, checking his gear one last time. "But if we don't stop that weapon, billions of people die. I can live with those odds." The 4 Marines started down the tunnel. Above them, they could hear the fortress shaking as the Defiant began its final approach. In the weapon chamber, the Vex Prime stood before a massive machine that hummed with deadly energy. He was the oldest Vex alive, a creature of pure malice who had overseen the destruction of countless worlds. His ancient eyes glowed with hatred as he watched the charging process near completion. 2 minutes until firing," reported the weapon. "Technician." The Vex Prime smiled. In 2 minutes, the planet Calria would be nothing but asteroids and dust. The humans would learn that no one defied the Vex Dominion and lived. The fortress suddenly shook as something massive struck it from above. Emergency lights flickered as secondary explosions echoed through the complex. "What was that?" the Prime demanded. "Sir, a human ship just rammed the fortress. They sacrificed their entire crew to breach our defenses," the Prime snarled. Even in his ancient life, he had never encountered a species willing to die so readily for strangers. It was unnatural. It was wrong. No matter. The weapon fires in 90 seconds. Even if they reach us, they cannot stop it now. Then the blast. Donker exploded inward, and 4 human Marines charged into the chamber. Williams took in the scene instantly. The massive weapon, the Vex technicians, the ancient creature who was obviously in charge. His rifle was already firing as he rolled behind. "Cover! Jackson, take the technicians. Martinez, protect our 6. Davis, help me with the big ugly one." The Vex Prime was fast for something so old, but Williams was faster. His shots sparked off the aliens' armor as they circled each other in the chamber. "You are too late, human," the Prime hissed. "The weapon fires in 30 seconds. Your precious planet dies." Williams grinned and pulled the pin on his last grenade. "Maybe, but so do you." The explosion shook the chamber. When the smoke cleared, Williams lay motionless beside the equally still form of the Vex Prime. Across the room, his 3 Marines worked frantically at the weapon controls. "Sarge!" called Davis. "The weapon's still charging. We can't stop it." Williams opened his eyes. Blood ran down his face, but he was still alive. Barely. "Can't stop it? Then redirect it." "What?" Williams coughed up blood. "Point it at empty space. Let it fire into nothing." Davis looked at the controls. It was possible, but someone would have to manually redirect the beam after it fired. Someone would have to stand directly in its path. "Sarge, whoever does that will die, yeah." Williams struggled to his feet. "Good thing I'm already dead." The weapon fired. Its beam lanced out toward Calria, carrying enough energy to shatter a world. But at the last second, it bent away from the planet, redirected by a human marine who died saving billions of people he had never met. The beam shot harmlessly into space, where it eventually dissipated among the stars. On his ship above, Admiral, Kane watched the weapon fire and missed the planet. He felt tears in his eyes as he realized what had happened. "Sir?" called his communications officer quietly. No response from Sergeant Williams's team. Kane nodded. He had not expected one. "Mark them down as heroes, all of them." In the ruins of the fortress, only the human's radio beacon still transmitted. It sent out a simple message over and over. "Mission accomplished. Calria is safe." Elder Thorne stood in the crystal gardens of his rebuilt city, watching human medical ships land in the distance. 3 months had passed since the battle that saved his world. 3 months since he learned what the word human really meant. The gardens were beautiful again. Human engineers had helped rebuild them, working alongside Calrian crystal shapers to restore what the Vex had destroyed. But something was different now. Hidden among the flowing crystal formations were small memorial stones, each one bearing the name of a human who had died to save people they had never met. "Elder," called Nira, approaching across the sparkling pathways. "Ambassador Wright is here to see you." Thorne nodded. The human ambassador visited often, helping coordinate the ongoing relief efforts. But today felt different. Today, representatives from across the galaxy were gathering for something unprecedented. Ambassador Wright was a small woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She had spent her life trying to build bridges between species, but after Calria, her job had become much more complicated. "Elder Thorne," she said, bowing in the Calrian manner, "thank you for seeing me. I know today is difficult." Today was the day the Galactic Council would finally respond to humanity's actions at Calria. For 3 months, they had debated and argued about what to do with a species that had violated dozens of galactic laws to save innocent lives. "Ambassador," Thorne replied, "your people saved us. Whatever the Council decides, we will never forget that." Wright smiled sadly. "The Council seems to think we went too far, used excessive force, deployed illegal weapons. They're calling for sanctions against humanity." Thorne felt his crystal skin darken with anger. "Sanctions? Your people died for us. They sacrificed themselves for strangers, and the Council wants to punish you for it?" "Fear makes people do strange things, Elder. The galaxy has never seen anything like the human response to Calria. They don't understand why we did what we did." Then perhaps it is time they learned. In the council chambers on the neutral world of Concordia, representatives from 200 species gathered for the most important session in galactic history. The Great Hall buzzed with nervous conversation as delegates took their seats. At the center of the chamber sat the 5 members of the High Council. Ancient beings from the oldest spacefaring races, they had guided galactic civilization for thousands of years. Today, they would judge humanity. Counselor Vex Tar, a tall insectoid with mandibles that clicked when he spoke, called the session to order. "We are here to address the actions of the human species during the Calrian incident. The charges are severe. Excessive use of force, deployment of banned weapons, violation of galactic sovereignty laws." In the human delegation section, Admiral Kane sat beside Ambassador Wright. He wore his dress uniform, every metal polished to perfection. Behind him sat the families of those who had died at Calria. They had come to hear their loved ones judged by aliens who had never risked anything for anyone. "The humans," continued Counselor Vextar, "deployed over 3,000 warships to resolve what should have been a simple diplomatic matter. They used weapons banned by treaty. They caused the complete destruction of a Vex fleet, killing over 50,000 beings." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. "Furthermore," the counselor said, This excessive response has destabilized the galactic balance of power. Species across the galaxy now fear human intervention. Trade routes have been disrupted. The Vex Dominion has collapsed entirely, creating a power vacuum that threatens galactic peace. Ambassador Wright stood to respond. Counselor, with respect, you seem to have forgotten why we were there in the first place. The humans were not invited to intervene, Vextar clicked. The Galactic Council had the situation under consideration. Under consideration. Wright's voice carried across the chamber. While you were considering, the Vex were murdering children. They were destroying hospitals and schools. They were committing genocide. That is not the point, another counselor interjected. The point is that humans violated galactic law. Wright turned to address the full chamber. Let me tell you about galactic law. When the Calrians called for help, how long did this council take to respond? 3 weeks. 3 weeks while innocent people died. She activated a holographic display showing images from Calria during the attack. Crystal cities burning. Children running from explosions. Bodies lying in the streets. This is what your laws protected, Wright said. This is what your careful consideration allowed to continue. Elder Thorn rose from the observer section. He had been given permission to speak, though many counselors had opposed it. May I address the council? Vextar looked annoyed, but nodded. Thorn walked to the center of the chamber. His crystal form caught the light, making him seem to glow with inner fire. Counselors, you speak of human violations of law. Let me speak of human violations of the heart. The chamber fell silent. When my people cried for help, this council formed committees. The humans formed fleets. When we faced extinction, this council debated procedures. The humans debated only how fast they could reach us. Thorn turned to look at each section of delegates. You fear human power. You worry about their weapons and their willingness to use them. But let me tell you what you should really fear. He gestured toward the human delegation. You should fear a galaxy where no one answers when innocents cry for help. You should fear a universe where political considerations matter more than children's lives. You should fear the silence that follows when evil believes no one will stop them. Counselor Vextar shifted uncomfortably. The humans still violated. The humans, Thorn interrupted, did what you could not. They heard a cry for help and they answered. Not in weeks or months, but in hours. They did not come with negotiators or diplomats. They came with everything they had, ready to die for people they had never met. The elder's voice grew stronger. You want to sanction them for this? You want to punish the only species in the galaxy willing to risk everything for strangers? Then you are fools. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some delegates supported Thorn's words. Others demanded he be removed for insulting the council. But one voice cut through the chaos. He's right. The speaker was Counselor Mertala, the oldest member of the High Council. Her species had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. When she spoke, others listened. I have served on this council for 3 centuries, she said. In that time, I have seen atrocity after atrocity go unanswered because we were too afraid to act. The Thanix massacres, the Kellior slave raids, the Zephyrian purges. Each time we formed committees and held debates while people died. She stood slowly, her ancient frame trembling with emotion. The humans did in one day what we have failed to do in 1,000 years. They proved that someone still cares enough to fight for justice. Admiral Kane rose from his seat. Counselors, may I speak? Vexitar nodded reluctantly. Kane walked to the center of the chamber. He was a big man, scarred from many battles, but his voice was gentle. You're afraid of us. I understand that. You should be afraid. Not because we want to conquer you, but because we represent something you've forgotten. He looked around the chamber at faces from dozens of different species. We represent the idea that some things are worth fighting for, that some principles are worth dying for, that when evil shows its face, someone has to stand up and say, no more. Kane's voice grew stronger. You worry about our weapons, our banned technologies, our excessive force. But let me ask you this. What good are all your laws and treaties if they can't save a single innocent life? He gestured toward the images still floating in the chamber. The Vex didn't care about your laws when they murdered Calrian children. They didn't respect your sovereignty when they committed genocide. But they understood our weapons. They understood our fury. Kane turned to face the High Council directly. You want to sanction us? Go ahead. Ban us from your council. Declare us outcasts. But know this, the next time someone cries for help, we'll still come, because that's who we are. The chamber fell silent. For long moments, no one spoke. Then, slowly, something unprecedented happened. The Calrian delegation stood and began to applaud. Other delegations joined them. Soon, half the chamber was on their feet, clapping for the humans who had risked everything to save strangers. Councillor Vextar pounded his gavel for order, but the applause continued. In the observer section, families of human soldiers wept as delegates from across the galaxy showed their respect for the sacrifice their loved ones had made. When order was finally restored, Councillor Mertala spoke again. I call for a vote. All those in favor of sanctions against humanity? Only 12 hands rose. Out of 200 delegates, only 12 supported punishing humanity for saving innocent lives. All those opposed? 188 hands rose. The chamber shook with cheers. But Mertala was not finished. I propose a new resolution. That humanity be officially recognized as the Galactic Protectorate. That they be given authority to intervene when genocide threatens any species, regardless of political considerations. The vote was even more overwhelming, 195 in favor, only 5 opposed. Ambassador Wright felt tears in her eyes as she watched delegates from across the galaxy officially ask humanity to be their protectors, to be the ones who answered when others would not. After the session ended, Elder Thorn approached the human delegation. Ambassador, there is something else, something the Council needs to know. Wright looked at him curiously. Thorn activated a communication device. Suddenly, the chamber filled with voices. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All speaking. Different languages, but all saying the same thing. Help us! They're killing our people. Please, someone answer. We need the humans. Wright stared at the device. What is this? Distress calls, Thorn said quietly. They've been coming in ever since Calria. Species across the galaxy are calling for help. They're calling for you. Wright looked at Admiral Kane. He nodded grimly. We've been receiving them too. 67 different species, all asking for human intervention against various threats. Councillor Mertala overheard and approached them. Then it seems the galaxy has made its choice. When evil rises, they don't call the Council anymore. They call the humans. Kane looked out the chamber's great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, people were suffering. People were dying. People were calling for help. Admiral, Wright asked quietly, what do we do? Kane's answer was simple. We answer. That's what humans do. We answer when others call for help. As the human delegation prepared to leave Concordia, word was already spreading across the galaxy. Earth was mobilizing again. Ships were launching. Marines were loading their gear. Humanity had become what the galaxy needed most, the ones who came when others would not, the ones who fought when others feared to act, the guardians who answered every call for help with the same response. Help is coming.